today is from Simon Israel from Channel 4 News. Good afternoon, Simon.
Good afternoon, Minister. I have two questions, one for you and one for Dr. Paris. My question to you is, 10 days ago, Minister predicted the tide would be turned in 12 weeks. What's the current forecast? And to Dr. Paris, I want to ask, a message sent to staff today at King's Hospital Trust said, and I quote, "The number of deaths being reported at King's in national figures is below what they are experiencing. This is not just King's, there are a number of other trusts, and the centre has been made aware. At what point are we being given accurate, up-to-date figures on the numbers who have died?"
Well, thank you, Simon. If I can begin before handing over to Jenny, nobody's pretending that this will be over in a few weeks. But what the Prime Minister said in the past, and I will reiterate today, is that if we all play our part, if we all follow the very clear medical advice, then we can turn the tide of this virus. And at the heart of that is a very simple message, which is to stay at home. By doing so, protect the NHS and then save lives. If we follow that advice, then we can turn the tide, and the more we adhere to that advice, the more lives will be saved and the faster we'll begin to do that. Jenny.
Thank you. So just picking up the point about the tide and the turning, I think this is an important message to get across to the public. As I said previously on a number of these interviews, this is a bit of a moving feast, which is dependent on the actions that we take as individuals and collectively as a population. If we practice social distancing effectively, we will move the peak across, and that is a good thing, because as we move it, it will drop. So we need to keep practicing. The data that we have, the modelling going forward, will suggest that in the time period which the Prime Minister noted, which was 12 weeks, we would get on top of the virus, and that is exactly what I hope we will do. The proof of that will come in around 2 to 3 weeks, and that is because our most constant figures, and we'll come back to this in a moment, are the deaths, and the deaths follow the numbers of infections. And there's usually a 2 or 3 week time lag, and we also need a lag for the effectiveness of the intervention measures to come through. So what I keep saying frequently, and I'm sorry if I'm repetitive, is that we need to wait for 2 to 3 weeks to see what we have achieved collectively, and then the slope of that curve will start to indicate where a new peak will be, but we're optimistic that that peak will be lower. So we need to keep looking at this, but it will be 2 to 3 weeks before we are clear whether the peak has shifted across or not. So I think that was the first question. The second one that you raised was around deaths. Clearly, every death that we have is a really sad event. It involves a family and a lot of sadness. We have to make sure that when we're reporting, the family is content and knows, and that all our data is absolutely accurate. For any event like this, whether it be COVID, whether it was Ebola, whatever it is, there is always a time lag for us to check and evaluate that the data across the system is linked. We do not want to be misreporting data and then having to correct it. The public would not have confidence if we were doing that. And as we have had, sadly, to register more deaths, that time period takes longer. So I'm not aware of the communication from King's. It may be that that's gone back into the NHS, but what I can say is all of our data links up, and there is a time lag, and for the reporting yesterday, it will have been the deaths reported the previous day. So it is inevitable that there will be a time lag. This is not an issue of transparency, it's an issue of ensuring that all of those families that need to know and all the parts of the system can consolidate the information and ensure it's accurate for the public.
Thank you, Jenny. I think that's very clear. I'll take the next question from Paul Brand from ITV. Paul.
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, to the Deputy Chief Medical Officer.